it has become sort of a tradition that whenever I make a GIF or a GIF that is a bit more complex, that I make a short little walkthrough. And this is the GIF going home. I think that's what I called it for the Selfie Sunday on April the 9th, 2017. And that's what this GIF looks like. This is the video I used for making the GIF. So see me being transported into a UFO and then the UFO flying away. So that was a bit of a complex thing to make, and I had the idea yesterday. Well, I had the idea for a couple of weeks ago, and I made the photo, the base photo. I made it last week. Actually, it was just a test shot, but then I didn't have time to make the real footage, so I used the test shot. And that is the composition, comparatively complex, with lots of layers. See, 13 different layers. Let's go through that all. So I started with a black background that is needed, and I was looking for a fitting background. I was looking for a star field kind of thing, and on a platform for stock footage, free stock footage, public domain stock footage, so legal. I found this wonderful little Milky Way background, and I just applied a curves effect to it, so to make it a bit more punchy. The next thing was that I wanted to put myself in, right? And you see I also darkened myself a bit with a curves effect and added a directional blur. That is not active at the moment, and you can see that. I hope we can see that. Here the directional blur starts to kick in shortly before I get sucked up to the UFO, so to make that whole thing a bit more dynamic. And then I squeeze myself, or I get squeezed horizontally and also a bit squished. So let's go through that and get sucked up into the UFO. So maybe let's pre-render that. Yeah, that works. And you also see, so that is the effect. Thump, gets sucked up. And you also see that I wiggle a bit, and that was because of the energy of the tractor beam. So I added a wiggle to that layer. The whole footage it looks very grainy, and I cut myself out very, very sloppily, simply because I didn't have to be accurate with that very tiny, or comparatively tiny GIF. Tumblr allows only GIFs maximum 540 pixels wide and 540 pixels high maximum. So the longer edge, maximum 540 pixels. And so I'm very tiny in this GIF anyway, so it wasn't a problem to cut myself out that sloppily. And yeah, it's very grainy, but that is simply because I just applied a preset in Lightroom, and I thought, what the heck, doesn't matter. Because again, very tiny. And I made that last night after I finished, or while I made the cue for Selfie Sunday. So I went to bed at around 5 a.m. in the morning. And I refined that GIF today, actually. Well, depending on when you watch this. So that is that layer. Also, yeah, I said I applied a curves effect to darken that layer a bit, and you see that looks okay-ish. So there's that. The composition is 1080 by 1080, by the way, so that I have a bit more control for fine tuning. The next layer was the beam, right? I made a blue beam, and you see that you almost see nothing here, and that is on purpose. So you only see slight little outline because I have a second beam with bubbles. I wanted to have bubbles in there, so bubbles get sucked up so that they're in the tractor beam that something happens, right? And you see after I'm sucked into the UFO, the tractor beam disappears. I animated that. So animated that out. The next thing was the UFO footage. You see that here. It's also from that platform. Just masked it out. You can see that's how it looks like. And again, public domain. I can use that. And yeah, I just masked it out. And the same goes here. I also added a little wiggle on the UFO so that it moves. Well, it wiggles here, right? And then after I'm sucked in, the UFO moves out of the frame. So the thing is, though, I added another piece. I added myself in here once more. You see that here. So in front, masked myself out a bit on the edges because I wanted to that it looked a bit like as if I'm standing in that beam. And I added behind me, so a tractor beam. That is a cool effect cool free effect that is actually intended to make lightsabers, Star Wars lightsabers. It's by videocopilot.net, the sabers effect. Cool free effect for Adobe After Effects. That is the software, by the way, that I'm working in. So it has a tractor preset. So you see, same goes here. And the tractor beam, I let the tractor beam stand a bit in here and then disappear. So I animated that out. And so me in front of that, so that in the background. You see I aligned that so that I'm actually in the beam. And I had another tractor beam in front of me so that it really looks like as if I'm standing within that beam. And then because, and you see that here, if we zoom in, because if I'm sucked into the UFO, you see that actually I'm in front of that. So I added another instance of that UFO in front and masked that out so that you see if we solo that layer, I just masked it out very sloppily so that I get sucked into that. And I also gave that front part of the UFO another wiggle and a slightly different wiggle so that it looks like as if they're moving parts. Again, this is very sloppily, but the GIF is very small, so you don't really see that. And I wanted that kind of artificial effect to that. So that's one thing. Then I added a slight little vignette to the whole picture to give it a bit more punchiness. And I gave it a little glow here. It's just a tiny, so here at the opening. Also animated that out. So, and after the UFO disappeared. I wasn't really satisfied. That was more or less the version that I got yesterday, or had yesterday, or well, this morning. And then I thought something is missing. So what I did was to, and I'll remove the motion blur effect here. I animated a tiny little UFO in the background. Okay, I have to, of course, make the layer visible. And funnily enough, it is kind of a magenta-ish color. And that just moves very fast and disappears. And since I added the motion blur, you see it's just a little yeah, just that little bit of movement in the back. So, and that is what the final effect looks like, or the final footage looks like. So I get sucked into the UFO, and then boom, the UFO moves into space. And I opened this QuickTime MOV, that's how I do it in Photoshop, and made a GIF out of that. Of course, if I would have made this effect for a short film or video or movie or something, this would by far not be sufficient. But I don't have, or wouldn't have had, these extreme restrictions that I have with the GIF. So I probably would have done a bit more things. Maybe would have even recorded myself in front of green screen, so I have actual video footage, and I probably would have moved the hair or something to get really sucked up. So okay, that is the GIF. I don't know if that is the right size. Yes, it has 540 pixels by 540 pixels, and you can simply save that for web. That is how to make GIFs in Photoshop. So these are the settings that I used with a bit of experimenting to not get over. No, I didn't. See, this is with 225 colors, and that's one of these things. We can change the frame rate, and I changed the frame rate to either, I don't know, 12 frames per second or 10 frames per second. Let's check that, whether 12 frames per second are good enough, or if I have to go down. No, it was 10 frames per second. It's a lot of experimenting usually. So 10 frames per second is enough for that GIF. Let me go to Save for Web. And I was playing around quite a lot with the settings, and you see I'm at 2 megabytes, 2.9 megabytes with 225 colors. And I used a bit of a lossy compression of 5, and of course looping forever. So we have that, and that is sufficient for a GIF, I think. And I'm kind of happy with that effect for the comparatively short amount of time it took me about. All in all, 2.5 hours or something to make that. So yeah, this one's for today. Bye bye. Till next time.